remember one evening standing in my kitchen at 5 p.m, about 8 years ago now, ready to open my usual bottle of wine. I didn't have a choice in that. How could I possibly relax without it? My kids had driven me nuts all day. I was exhausted, and it was the only thing I saw I could do that could bring me some relief. But on this particular night, something happened. I had been learning about how we tend to be reactive to all the external forces around us. But until that moment, I had failed to notice what was happening within me. And it hit me right in the face, like the cold air in this room this morning. I was actually reacting to my own internal reactions. My entire life has been one big reaction. I've reacted to my husband, I've reacted to my kids, my parents, a stranger. I've reacted to a comment on social media. I've reacted to the news. I've reacted to my looks, my weight, my habits, my fears. I've reacted to everything other people say and what they choose to do. When I turned 40, almost 10 years ago, my life looked very different to what it does now. And yet nothing outside of me has changed. I was married to the love of my life. I had 5 beautiful children. I had a good car, a house, and all the things everyone kept telling me I needed in order to feel content. Around the same time, I was told that I had fat in my liver and pre-diabetes. I did drink too much and I did eat too much sugar, but hey, diabetes was in my family and everyone I knew drank too much and ate too much sugar. So really in my mind, I had everything I needed in order to feel content. But I was far from content. I felt unworthy and like I was not the navigator of my own life. It was like somebody else was taking my inner GPS and inputting the coordinates. It wasn't a nice feeling to live in. And I was very lost. Something big was missing, and I had to find out what that was. The thing is, I know I'm not alone in this. As a health and life coach, I've now sat across from many hundreds of people who have told me that they feel the same. So how is it possible? How is it possible that we could have everything we think brings us a happy and contented life? But I felt neither of those things. I guess you could say that I had all the content, but in my internal world, I was far from content. Can I take you back to my kitchen when I was about to pour that glass of red wine, when I so rudely got slapped by the hard hand of insight? Well, what I saw was that I was living my life reacting to other people's feelings, behaviours, problems and thoughts. I was reacting to what they might be thinking, feeling or doing. I was reacting to my own feelings, my own problems, my own thoughts. I was reacting to the reactions of what other people were thinking about my reaction to their reactions. I was literally miles away from myself. And what was the most confronting thing that I saw was that I actually wasn't reacting to other people's feelings, behaviours, problems or thoughts at all. I wasn't reacting to my kids' behaviour when I went to find some relief in that bottle of red wine. I was reacting to my own thinking about their behaviour. And because I'd always been so focused on other people's lives, in that very moment, I suddenly realised I'd never taken responsibility for my own. I had given myself over to being reactionary to everyone else around me and had innocently made them responsible for what I felt inside. My inner world was no longer their responsibility, but it was mine. It was like, how did this happen? How does this happen when you can give your GPS, your inner compass, over to someone else? Well, let me share with you how I think this happened. Because while, of course, there would be many impactful moments that had happened in my life, that had influenced the way I was seeing the world. There was one that happened that stuck in my memory, and I want to share that with you. So when I was about 13 years old, I remember a pivotal moment when I realised what it was that I wanted to be when I grew up. I was so excited because everyone kept asking me this question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I finally figured it out. And I remember running up to a family member one day, full of the excitement and enthusiasm, because I'd figured out this question. I grabbed them by the arm and I said, hey, I know what I want to be when I grow up. This family member looked at me and said, what? Tell me, who? What? I said, I want to be a vet. So this family member looked at me with kind of pity and said, but Tracey, you're not smart enough to be a vet. Well, in that very moment, my heart sank and my dreams were shattered. And I hadn't even had the chance to try. And I never did. But so began my life as a reactionary, reacting to others' behaviours, what others said, what others thought about me. I'm so grateful. I can now look back onto that experience now with a totally different view of what occurred in that moment. That while it appears to be soul-destroying, I can actually see came from a misguided sense of love. So what this person had said to me had actually nothing to do with me. They were simply reacting to their own thoughts and fears. But I didn't know. How could I at 13? The saddest part was that I lived my life until I was 43, under the illusion that I wasn't smart enough to do certain things. For 3 decades, that was a truth that I never questioned. I wonder, how much truth do you have that you've never questioned? Following on from that insight in my kitchen, things all started to unravel for me. I became curious, firstly, about why I was reacting to things in the way that I was, jumping into those first responders, those first thoughts and feelings that were always there, ready and willing to tell me what to do. Especially when I knew they were taking me down a path that was damaging my health. And it was this curiosity that led to me challenging that deep belief that I had around my intellect. Now, once I had these insights and realised it was all just made-up thought, I didn't go on and become a vet. But I did see that my reactions had nothing to do with anyone or anything else outside of me. No one could plant a thought or a feeling into me. My thoughts and feelings are mine to own. But many of us react and respond urgently to patterns in our life that hurt us. Someone says something to us, we must say something back. Someone does something to us, and we must do something back. Someone feels a certain way, and we must feel a certain way too. We notice a feeling in our body we don't like, and we look to get rid of it. We innocently jump into those first thoughts and feelings that come up, and then we wallow in it. And while we're wallowing, we search frantically outside of ourselves to fix, to numb, or to run away from it all. If you string enough of these moments together over days, weeks, years, and decades, are you even living your own life? Bonnie Ware, in her book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, says that the number one regret of the dying is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I believe that we risk this regret if we live our life from our habitual reactions and if we make others responsible for what we feel inside. This is the path that leads us away from ourselves and keeps us disconnected from who we really are. And it is a reconnection with our inner values that leads us back home to a choice on how we treat ourselves and each other. Those insights in my kitchen were the start of a flurry of insights that began to wake me up to what was possible beyond the realm of my reactive and habitual patterns. Insight is such a wonderful gift. It shows you something that once you see it, seems obvious, but until you do, you are totally blind to it. But you only need to be willing to look beyond your own habitual reactions, and you will see something new. Becoming less reactionary takes a fair bit of time and a whole heap of discomfort to look to what is possible beyond the realm of other people and your reactive habits. The way I see it is the greater the change, the greater the effort required. To become willing to notice what's coming up within you, your patterns, your reactions to everyone else around you and to yourself is hard work. It feels like work because it is hard to challenge the beliefs of your habitual mind. It asks you to take responsibility for that which is yours to own, that of your own feelings and the way you react to them. Now, once I did that work, I stopped reacting to my own emotions with rubbish food and alcohol. Over the space of a few years, I reversed the fatty liver and pre-diabetes, and I no longer suffer from those preventable conditions. I started choosing to consciously focus on my own spiritual, emotional, physical, and financial needs. I started to change what I could change and accept what I could not. And what could I change? Me, the way I reacted to any moment. And this totally transformed the relationship with everyone in my life, especially my husband and my beautiful children, because I released them from being responsible for what I felt. My inner world was no longer their responsibility. It was mine. And in the wise words of Rumi, who wrote these 800 years ago, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. We're all getting older, and time stands still for no one. We have no choice in that, but we do get to choose how we live. Do we choose to react impulsively to those first thoughts or feelings that are also there, ready and willing to tell you what to do? Or are we willing to consider making a choice that is more aligned with our most deeply held values? As Carl Jung said, we are not what has happened to us, but we are what we choose to become. One of the hardest questions I have ever had to ask and answer for myself is, what do I value? What matters to me? What do you value? What matters to you? It's rarely an easy question to answer if we've been disconnected from ourselves for a long time. It takes an enormous amount of courage to live a life aligned with what you value, to set it on your path of what matters to you. And it's not a bold courage like skydiving or even standing here on stage in front of you. I see it as more of a quiet courage, a courage that no one else sees, but it's not invisible to you because you know how many reasons your mind is giving you not to do what you know matters deep in your heart. And I believe we need to consciously draw on this courage almost every single day of our life if we want to live a life without regrets. So how can we do this? Well, of course, there are many paths back home to you. But let me share with you how I do it and what has been the most powerful for me. Every day, when I wake up, I remind myself that I do have access to choice. choices in how I react to anything that comes into my day. I remember this quiet courage that lives within me. And by the way, this lives within you as well. It is never gone. It is always there waiting patiently for you to return. It is with this awareness that I get to consciously choose to go down a path that reflects my inner values with how I treat myself and others around me. That I get to input the coordinates into my inner GPS that will lead me down the path of living an authentic life without regrets. The path I know will make me the navigator of my own life. Thank you very much.